Hey y'all, welcome to Adventures with Aggie, brought to you by the Ryan Martin Foundation. Today we have another episode of our series featuring Dromos Agency. We spoke with Ryan Neiswender. He's on Team USA wheelchair basketball, and he's a recent gold medalist from Tokyo 2020. Please welcome Ryan. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I think we talked off air that I feel like I know you because you've interviewed some of my teammates. It's been so cool to see just the evolution of your podcast, but to actually be on to have a conversation with you, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that too. I think I've been following you for many months now, and I'm so excited that now is the time. It's happening. We're speaking. You're on the show. I'm so excited. But I guess just to kind of get started, could we go to the beginning? Could you give me some background into who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So I am originally from Hershey, Pennsylvania, which I like to say is the sweetest place on earth. It is where the chocolate's made, and grew up there. My parents still live in the area. Actually, was just there last week. I got to do a puck drop for the Hershey Bears, which they're an AHL hockey team that's affiliated with the Washington Capitals. So that was pretty cool to like full circle moment celebrating the gold medal. But um, grew up in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and grew up in a family that was pretty athletic. My dad coached soccer for 30 years. Prior to that, he played soccer. My sister played college soccer, and so we were involved in sports. And I probably would have been a soccer player if I didn't, if I wasn't born with a disability. But at the when I was 8 years old, I found wheelchair basketball through a newspaper article that my parents saw about a clinic that was in Philadelphia. And so thankful that they found that because my mind kept saying, okay, go do this and like body move the way that I want you to move. But I wasn't actually able to do it when I was playing able body sports. But as soon as I hopped in that chair, it gave me the freedom of mobility. And my mind could do, or my body could do what my mind was telling it to do. And so instantly kind of found a passion. I think my parents saw that pretty early on. I played my AAU basketball years or junior basketball in Baltimore, Maryland for the Bennett Blazers. And then fast forward, I made my first national team as a senior in high school and have been on the team on and off since 2013, most notably winning a Paralympic gold medal at the Tokyo 2020 games. So that's my elevator pitch of a little bit about me. I went to the University of Illinois, so I
Cool.
played wheelchair basketball 4 years there. Was an All-American. Played professional wheelchair basketball overseas in Hamburg, Germany, and now I work for Visa, which we'll dive into a little bit later. But I work for them and I'm sponsored by them. I love Visa, huge sponsors. They're actually the first ever sponsor of the Paralympic Games. So that's like a fun trivia fact. And that's what I'm doing today. My wife and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're just enjoying life.
I have so many follow-up questions for you after your incredibly impressive elevator pitch. But I think I want to start at kind of the beginning. Could you tell us, like, I guess, how did you know that basketball was going to be your sport? Like, did it click immediately? You knew that this is what you wanted to do, or did it take some convincing? How was that for you?
Well, growing up, I think it's important to try tons of sports. So I played basketball. I also was into tennis. So I played wheelchair tennis actually all the way up into high school. I played on my high school tennis team. So one of the unique things is that tennis, there's a net dividing you and the other person. So you can play someone standing up. I just get two bounces and they get one. So that was a unique way where I could like be on a team. I made the varsity team my senior year, opened some eyes to the public of just like what adapted athletics can look like. And then I guess played sled hockey a couple of times for the Bennett Blazers, would play wheelchair football from time to time. But the reason where to go back to your question of why basketball, I think it was a combination of it. It was my first love. Like it's the first sport that I played uh, in a wheelchair for adapted athletics. And also there's this power of when someone speaks potential into your life or into something that you may feel you're good at, but you're not exactly sure. It can kind of take you from where you are to where you want to be. Because someone else believes in you. So now you believe in you, and you want to be in the gym. You want to put more time into it. You start watching the Steve Sirios, the Matt Scotts, and you want to emulate your game after them. And so initially I had someone when I was 12 years old, a coach that never made a national team, but was trying out for national teams when I was 12. He just said that, you have a lot of potential, and even went on to say, like, this kid, you're going to see this kid like one day on TV. You're going to see this kid playing collegiate basketball and Paralympic basketball. And when someone has confidence like that in you, it's amazing. And that's basketball, but that's life. Like, I think a good message to just put out there is, if you feel something, share it with another person, because the potential that you may see in someone may change the course of their life. And it happened to me, and I've seen it with so many others. So that's kind of how I fell in love with it. And then the idea of like the process and falling in love with the process, because there's a lot of empty gym time where it's just you and the court. And so falling in love with the day-to-day, seeing that progression of getting better, having success, setting milestones, achieving those milestones, all those things kind of helped me pick basketball over maybe another sport.
Absolutely. I think I'm sitting here smiling because something you said is very similar to what Dana Matthewson was saying. Her quote, I think at the very end, it was her advice to her younger self, which I'll also ask you in a little bit, but it was chase your butterflies. And I think that goes hand in hand with, if you feel something, say it, because she was saying like that butterfly feeling you get in your stomach is when you're doing something exciting, or you're doing something that you love, or like you want to be doing that thing. So I think that's like when you feel the butterflies, go for it and say something. But anyway, I think you're, I don't know, related and like a not.
It must be a Dromos thing.
Yes.
Or I'd like to think it is, at least.
Yes. It shall love that. Yes, that should be the Dromos saying now. But amazing. I love the story. Let's talk about making the national team, kind of the process from you making it such a young age. That's crazy. When you're saying this happened when I was 12, like thinking about what I was doing at 12, I was not doing what you were doing when you were 12 years old. But how did that progress happen from making the US team and then working all the way up to Tokyo? That's a long time for you and for anybody to kind of work that long to get to where you've gotten today. But yeah, what was that like?
Well, I want to clarify. So 12 years old is when someone spoke it into my life.
Okay.
18 was when I made the national team.
Got it.
So I think from that 12 to 18 mark is kind of when I started to put that work in, the extra time in the gym, fall in love with the process. But to let you into a little bit of my journey to make my first national team, I had been training for my junior year. I had my sights set on the U23 tryouts, which were going to be October 22nd of 2012. Why I remember that is because I actually put the date on my ceiling of my bedroom, and it said go for it. So every day when I woke up, I saw that date and I knew what I was going towards, and it kind of like was the reason for me to get out of bed that morning. And I knew that other guys were working really hard, and what I wanted to be able to say at that initial tryout for under 23s was I did everything that I could to put myself in the best position and lay everything out there. And I ended up making that team at U23s, which kind of, that along with my college recruitment process gave me some visibility into, after the 2012 games in London, there was a coaching change from Jim Glatch to Ron Likens. Ron had been recruiting me because he's the University of Missouri's head coach. And I submitted an application for the senior men's national team. It was May of 2013. And I was like, shoot your shot. Why not? Stick it out there, see what happens. And I got an invite. So I actually skipped my high school graduation to go to this tryout, and ended up, you go, and it's funny because when we reminisce on this, all the guys kind of talk about like that tryout was one of the hardest tryouts that there's ever been, because it was 3 a days for 4 or 5 days, but we started that tryout with max bench, max dips, max pull-ups, like everything max. And then the next day you woke up and you were like super sore and you had to go like play your best basketball. But I remember playing defense my first possession and Steve Sirio's behind me. And first off, and then Matt Scott's coming at me. And first off, as an 18-year-old, these are guys that like you've been looking up to, emulating your game after, and now you're side by side on the court. And I remember Matt coming with a full head of steam and Steve's behind me and he's like, you better get going. Like, you better get going. And I was used to being one of the faster guys on the court. So I didn't need a head start, but I didn't start quick enough. And Matt Scott just like coasts to the basket and beats me one-on-one and shoots the layup. And it was kind of my like welcome to the big leagues moment. But I like to think that it's a combination of preparation where I said I wanted to do everything possible for those moments and right timing. Like it was the end of a quad. So it was a new quad starting, a new coach coming in. He was kind of open to, I'm going to take the best 12, 18 guys. And I made the first cut and it was like, oh my gosh, like I called my parents. They were, I wouldn't say surprised, but it was just kind of like, I went there with no real expectations. Just, I was going to put everything out there. And then I called them again when the 12 were announced. And then that summer was Bogota, Colombia, the World Championship qualifier. And I ended up starting for the senior men's national team and we won gold. And so it was kind of this like, holy crap, full circle moment where everything that I dreamed of in a matter of like 4 months became reality. And that kickstarted the next 9 years up until this moment with Team USA. And every year you have to try out. So some years I made it, some years I was an alternate. 2016 I was an alternate and watched those guys win gold, and it just fueled the fire even more for me to make sure that I didn't feel that feeling again in 2020. I was happy for them, of course, but like any guy wants to make that team, and I wasn't going to let anything stop me from that. So that's kind of the long-winded answer, but just to give you like to double click and go into my story a little bit more of my USA journey.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. And you read my mind with the welcome to the big leagues moment. That was one of my questions. So you stole it from me, but I appreciate you answering it. But since we're talking about our lovely teammates here so much, Matt Scott, Steve Serio, and so many other ones, one question that I wanted to ask you is, how would you describe your Team USA teammates in like 2 or 3 words?
I would say a brotherhood, trust, and champions. Those would be my 3. Brotherhood, because those guys would do anything for me, anything. And that leads to my next word, which is trust. When we're out on the court, when we're out with friends outside of this, when we're hanging out, we trust one another. And that trust only comes from time. And it allows us to believe that it's possible to go out when you're down 5 in the 4th quarter with 4 minutes to go. The 5 guys that are going to be out there are going to go win you that gold medal. And that wasn't a coincidence. That's 9 years of building that chemistry for that one moment. And it may seem like it was just 4 moments or 4 minutes, but it was all the moments leading up to those last 4 minutes that really made that possible. And then champions, we win, we deliver. We time and time again know that we're the best team in the world, and we prove it. And so I just look at that team, and those are the kind of the words that come to mind, which make me proud. Like I can rattle those things off and I can back them up with reasons why. And I think that they'd all be smiling at those 3 words as well.
For sure. I guess that should have been a question I like warned you for, I think, but you came up with them really fast, which makes me think that they're really real.
Yes, it's candid. I like candid. So
yes,
no need to prep that one.
I love it. I think Matt used the word brotherhood many times in his episode as well. So I kind of foresaw that one coming, but I love it. Let's talk about Tokyo. I wanted to ask highlights. I know, obviously, congrats. Gold is crazy impressive. And like I told you before we started this, I was up all night long watching all of those matches, which was so fun. But yeah, give us maybe some highlights. Doesn't have to be on the court. I know on the court, gold would make sense for that. But off the court, any kind of story time from Tokyo that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I think a couple things that are really crucial is one, so many great moments from winning gold to just the process of we went from preparing for games to them getting postponed for a year, then not seeing our teammates for 16 months before coming together and pulling this thing off. Like a lot of guys are retiring and they prolonged that for another year, put all that effort in. But Tokyo specific, I think it's a combination of some of my favorite moments. One being at the end of every game, Coach Likens would come into the locker room and he would say, win or loss, like this game has no memory. And what you did yesterday will have no impact on what you do tomorrow. And for us, that was kind of the reset of, no matter how well or not well we played, tomorrow's a new day and the game will not forgive you if you don't come and are ready to bring your best. And so he said that time after time, and you knew he was going to kind of say it, but it was like a good foundational reminder. But then the last game, we win gold. He comes in and he says, we have like 5 minutes before we have to be out for the medal ceremony. And we're all super pumped. And he's super pumped as well. And he comes in and he just says, boys, this game has no memory, but people do. And you will remember this moment for the rest of your life. And for me, as I reflect on that, it's right. The game has no memory, but people do. And that's like a life lesson of the interactions that you have with others can have ripple effects for generation after generation after generation. And I'll remember the moments with my teammates and with that coaching staff and the days, the hours, the years, the time away from my family with those guys for my lifetime. And it shaped me as a business professional. It shaped me as a basketball player, as a husband, so on and so forth. And so that's one thing that really sticks out that it's close to me. I think the second one that comes to mind is you train for this moment your whole life, 20 years in the making for me. And it's 2 weeks. It's 8 games. It's crazy to think that it boils down to that. And to how do you perform at your best when it matters the most? And to me, I had a couple of conversations with our sports psychologist where he talked about, we focus on like the 10 minutes before the game starts. I miss I miss 4 shots in a row during warmups. I'm going to magnify that moment. And some people may say like, oh, I'm going to have a terrible game today because I didn't shoot well in warmups. But it's shattering that magnifying glass and trusting that preparation that you've had prior to. And the mental health side of, rather than being anxious, kind of embracing the moment and dumbing down the moment, where it's like, if we talk about that, like, yes, this is a gold medal match. Yes, this is one of the moments that you've worked for your entire life. You can get to a place where you normalize it and you're comfortable with it and you're able to perform at your best when it matters the most, like I said earlier. And so I think mental health was really important. And although for some guys it was more important than others, I just think having that support from Team USA was crucial to the success in 2016 and crucial to the success in 2020 or 2021. And then the third thing that I'll say is Tokyo was amazing, but it also magnified the reality of where our world is at. Between an empty stadium, we played Japan in the gold medal match, and it's like, imagine if that stadium was packed playing the host country in the gold medal. Like, that would have been insane. You talk about COVID procedures, taking COVID tests multiple times a day. Towards the end, we weren't even allowed to leave our rooms because we were in like close contact protocols. And then you're eating lunch between cubicle dividers with plexiglass, and you're trying to hear other people. And I think all those things just showed you kind of the moment and not being able to have your family there. And I could go on and on. And so I don't want to paint Tokyo as like it was all glamorous and everything was perfect and it was like exactly how I envisioned it, because like I didn't envision going into the Paralympic opening or closing ceremonies with no fans. I didn't envision all those things. And so I think it's okay to embrace that for what it was and still like have great memories, but also it just kind of signified like we're in a pandemic and a lot of people have been affected in a lot of different ways. And that was magnified for me during our time in Tokyo.
It's so crazy because like I feel like I hear all those things, like I hear them happening. I saw them on TikTok, you know, from like the athletes that were like doing TikTok vlogs and stuff. But I don't know, it's one of those things, or lots of those things that I will never feel. There's such a small group of people. I know there are lots of athletes, but still that's a small group of people relative to the rest of the world that felt what that was like. Because like, oh, like I can ask you like, how was it like not having fans at that match? But like you speaking about it, like I can never feel that, which is so strange, I think, because I watch it on TV and I can hear coaches yelling, which like isn't normal. But
Yeah.
still just thinking about all of the things that were different for you guys like blows my mind. But then also not having kind of that expectation going into it makes that even more interesting, I think, as an athlete, because you're not comparing it to another games or something else like that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that was important was like acknowledging it, right?
Yeah.
Like acknowledging that it's different, and that it may stink a little bit, and that's okay.
Right.
Because for us as a team, we just kind of got in the mentality where it was like head down, focus on the task at hand. 3 games, like when we were in the quarter, like it was like quarterfinals. Okay, we got 3 games to go. We're gonna focus on the quarterfinals today. 2 games to go semifinal. 1 game to go final. Like that's laser vision on like the task at hand, and knowing that we can't, like, obviously the Paralympics brings so much more than just a gold medal, and it's a celebration and a unification of the world coming together. But at its core, like our goal is to win gold, and all those other things, they're added bonuses. But I have great memories from Tokyo, and winning that with that group of guys, and doing it the way that we did it, going back to back, just special. And that's, no one can ever take that away from us.
Definitely. Definitely. I want to ask you about representing the US. You like champions, obviously, is a word that comes to mind with this team. Playing the host country in the gold medal match, that's super strange for me to think about. Even I wasn't there, but I had to imagine that's like intimidating and like crazy to be in Japan, playing Japan in such an important match. But I guess as far as representing the United States, what does that mean to you? I love this question for athletes. I've interviewed athletes from all kinds of countries: Uganda, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, all kinds of places. But what does it mean to be able to represent the United States to you?
Well, I talked about, I made the team in 2013, and then, and I think as an 18-year-old, when you make your first national team, and it's like, in, like I said, in like 4 months, I went from not being on the team to winning the world championship qualifier and starting every game. And then like those next couple of years, I didn't have as much success of making the national team. And I think it made me realize that I took some things for granted. And so when I put that jersey on again in 2017, and moving forward, I never wanted to forget what that felt like and how much time I actually put into it. And then being able to do it at the Paralympics, a couple of things come to mind. One, representing your country and being that 1% that gets to do it. There's a lot of pride that comes with that. I think there's also, it's humbling, because you know that it's so much bigger than yourself. I talk about this with like in my hometown, and all the people, like, this isn't just my gold medal. This is like so many people played so many different roles to get there. And I think when you think about representing your whole country, that just gets magnified even more. And then seeing that where the Paralympics are now, and so much progress that has happened, from the TV coverage to the equal pay and the recognition. I just think I'm representing all of the Team USA Paralympians that had to pay their way. Coach Likens talks about in '92 that his first games, that they had to pay their way, their jerseys, their flights, their food, their training camps, everything. And now we're getting some of the best treatment in the world, training at, and you know what, it can get better. Like, I don't want to say that it can't get better, because there's tons of areas that it can. But you asked me about representing our country, and I think for me, I represent all those people that came before me to pave the way. And how can I pave that way for that next generation? So that's the second part. And the last part is just, we live in my opinion, the best country in the world. It's a country with a ton of freedoms. We're not perfect. As you can see of the unrest that's happened over the course of the past couple of years, and we have a ton of stuff to work on. And I think that I can say that we have a ton of things to work on, and yet it's the best feeling in the world to represent our country, because we can work on them and we will work on them. And I want to be a part of that. And so does my teammates. And so to be able to represent your country and to have that pride, I think it's sweet. And then to look to your right and to your left and to not want to do it with anybody else but those 12 guys. It's 12 strong, and it's pretty amazing to see your flag raised higher than anybody else.
I'm sure. Can I be the 13th person? I want to get in on this.
Oh yeah.
I want to be a part of it.
Coach would say, he was like, we're 12 strong. And then some, like one of the coaching staff would be like, no, we're 16 strong. Like, we have all these other people part of the team. So I'm sure if we're 16 strong, we can be 17 strong,
that's
right?
Fine.
Like,
yeah.
you can join as well.
I can be the cheerleader on the side. That'll be fun.
Yes.
But well, again, congratulations. This year has been super, super exciting. For me, even more exciting, I would think, for you and everybody else who participated in Tokyo. Sounds like a crazy time. And I know this country was like, I don't know, I feel like even after everything crazy that happened this year, the month where the Olympics and Paralympics were happening, like I felt more together. I think the country felt more together because there was something that we were all kind of rallying behind and stuff. And I know you touched on that as well, but I felt it. And I was wearing all my crazy Team USA stuff the whole month. And people were like, do you have any other clothes? And I was like, no, not this month. But it was a great time. I want to, I guess, follow up with that with what have you been up to since then? I know you're working. How has the last, I don't know how long it's been, a few months now since you've been back. How's it been?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's, I mean, next week, I think it'll be 3 months, which is
wow,
wild that's happened. Post games, I definitely took a little time off. I was able to, my wife and I went on a trip to Cancun. So we had planned that way before the games, just because we knew that she wasn't going to be able to come, which is a huge bummer. Toyota did an awesome job of like the family and friends event that they put on in Colorado Springs, but we knew that we wanted to have something to look forward to, because I mean, they are my brothers and it is a brotherhood. And that's partially because we spend tons of our summers together, but that also means that we're away from our loved ones. So to be able to do that was special. It was a good reset too, just to enjoy good food, enjoy good company with my wife, just reset on some of our goals moving forward and enjoy the sunshine. So we did that, came back and have kind of hit the ground running. I was at the DK3, which was a lot of fun in Texas. I've done interviews with the Business Insider. I've done interviews with local newspapers. There will be some podcasts coming out as well with Dream Nation and Move United. So definitely been doing a lot of those things. I had some speaking engagements with Guidehouse and Visa, and you can see my Wheaties box behind me, General Mills. Just on, it was Disability Employment Awareness Month, National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And companies are, I'm telling you, the world is primed for this moment, for the Paralympics to become front and center stage for people with disabilities, regardless if you're a Paralympian or not, to be employed, to be represented in advertising, to be represented in costumes for Halloween and Barbie dolls and I could go on and on, but the world is primed. And if they take advantage of the opportunity, there's $13 trillion worth of spending power for disposable income for people with disabilities. There's a business case. And so I just look at all those things and I'm speaking. I'm using my voice to put my foot down and to show companies what they're doing well, where they can improve, and also just using my experiences at the highest level of sports to help teams reach their untapped potential. So you talked about podcasting is something that you love to do, and although you do it on the side, it's your passion. Speaking is my passion. I love to help people reach their untapped potential, and whether that's people or teams or organizations, that ignites me, because I think that everybody operates typically in their 2/3 of their capacity. And that final third is what makes people unique. It's their superpower. But we never go into there because we want to just stay mainstream status quo. But it's the teams that utilize each individual's superpower that go further than ever before. And so it's unlocking that, helping people reach their untapped potential. And I use stories from my career to help illustrate points and strategies to help teams do that. So I've been doing that. And then training. I'm going to be going to, I'm probably ruining this question, but I'm going to be going to 2024. I I found a great gym, Mountain Island Fitness in Charlotte, North Carolina, where some great basketball players train. It's kind of like a basketball factory a little bit. And I have some people that are taking me through workouts that it's exciting to me. And the games will be here before you know it. So that's kind of what I've been up to this moment. And looking forward to Christmas. Christmas is my favorite time of the year.
Yes, you've answered all the rest of my questions, but that's totally fine. What are you training for next? We've answered that. What are you doing for the holidays? Obviously, we love Christmas. That was one of my last questions. But I guess before we get to my kind of conclusion series of questions, I love asking athletes this question. I think you've already kind of answered it, but I want to ask it directly just to get an answer. But what have you learned about yourself through playing basketball? I feel like lots of what you said has been what you've learned about yourself, but just specifically, how would you describe like how the sport of basketball has like helped you learn about yourself?
I think so. I was talking to Matt Scott. I know I brought him up a lot, but we're coworkers now, so yeah. we chat pretty frequently, and I love this. It's only uncomfortable until we figure out how to dominate it. And I think basketball's shown me that anything in life is achievable. I just need to figure out how to dominate it. And if you give me enough time, if I have enough support, because support, like your supporting cast, is really what makes things possible. And if I have a passion for it, time, and a good supporting system or support system, I think those three things have shown me that anything is possible. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. Basketball has taken the lid off of what isn't possible. And it's just, what do I want to do? How does Ryan Neiswender want to use his time, energy, effort, and talents? And like you're doing with your podcast, it'll grow. It'll continue to move because you're passionate about it. You have a great supporting cast and you have the time to do it, and you're making the time to do it. And so for me, I think that that's what basketball has shown me. And that's a transferable skill that goes anywhere, because it's not cockiness, it's confidence. It's confidence that, like, if Ryan Neiswender puts time into it, he will do it with excellence.
For sure. Yeah, I think more people need to do what they're passionate about, because it's so much fun and it makes work or even just life more exciting, right? When you really like what you do. Because I know so many people, like, I've just come out of college and I know people taking the first job that they're offered because it's there. And now they're a couple months in and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't like this. And I don't know what to do. I'm like, it's because you don't love it. And that's why it's so hard, you know? So I think that's so exciting. At least that's where I think you and I relate in doing lots of things that we really like to do.
Yeah, not to go off on a tangent on it, but I just think my wife and I were talking, or she was talking to one of her friends, and she found a passion for baking. And it was like the first time that she found a passion for something. And she said those words. And I think Lauren and I both said, like, you know, I think I was really fortunate that I just, as a young kid, found a passion for basketball. Yeah. Like, some people actually go their whole lives with never finding a passion. And if you don't take anything else from our conversation today, it's like, find your passion, take time to reflect, try new things, fail, learn, grow. Because like, when you find something that you're passionate about, it just ignites the rest of your life. And I think that that's an important lesson. And I didn't even realize, I think I just thought that everyone finds their passion. And that's just like a natural thing. Like, it's not weird that I found my passion when I was like 8 or 12 years old. But it is, you know, people go a whole lifetime without doing it. And it's cool to see, like, I love seeing you in your in where you're passionate, because when we have these conversations, like, I could talk to you for hours because you love to do this, and it exudes in your questions, your curiosity, your smile, and it's fun. So that would just be my tangent on passion, and something that I've learned about that.
That's perfect. That should be a whole other episode. Let's just do another episode on finding
Episode
our
on
passions.
passion. I love it. We can do it. Take two. Series
Yes.
2.
Awesome. Okay, we could talk about this for lots longer, but I have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
Last question that I ask all of my athletes on the show: what is one piece of advice you would give to younger Ryan?
I think from a basketball standpoint, like, focus on mobility and flexibility, because I think I was so focused on getting strong and fast that I didn't do as much injury prevention, and it would have saved me a lot of aches, pains, and time. And I also think that I wasn't as supported from that aspect until I started making national teams, because at the local level, everybody's just trying to patch and piece things together. And you're doing a lot of it on your own. So that would be from a basketball standpoint. From a life standpoint, I would say, like, everything you do will represent the brand, like your brand.
Yeah.
And so don't waste a moment like living outside of like the brand that you want to be. I think there was a season of life where I lived outside of that, and it kind of like conflicted like what I said I wanted to do and who I actually was. And if I could go back and tell my younger self, it's that, you know, every action, every word that you say is either on brand or off brand. And I want to be someone that when someone meets me, very quickly they can know like what I want to be known for, not from what I share, but like who I am and how I show up, whether it's on a podcast or at work or at church or at a basketball event, wherever that is. I just want to be the same person. And I would just encourage my younger self to stay on brand.
I think that's great. I think younger Ryan would appreciate the advice. I'm sure.
I think you would too. I think you would too. You'd probably laugh and be like, yeah, whatever.
That's okay. That doesn't matter. He would appreciate it.
Yes.
I love it. Awesome. Okay. Last question here. How are you spending your holidays this year? This episode is going to go out just before Christmas. So I'm going to say Merry Christmas way in advance to you. Merry Christmas, Ryan. But how are you spending your holidays?
Well, it's actually pretty fitting because we celebrated Christmas with my family over Thanksgiving because we'll be with my wife's family in Chicago. So we'll be spending our Christmas in Chicago. I will be listening to a lot of Mariah Carey and all of her good, and maybe some Michael Bublé. We'll throw that in there. But I love Christmas music. It's my favorite time of the year. I think people are just happy and excited during this time of the year. I love the giving spirit that it brings off. And for me, I'm a man of faith. And so celebrating the birth of Christ is something that me and my family love to do. And I know everybody has their own beliefs, so I'm not going to go into that too in detail. But for me, it's something that I love to celebrate. And it's a big time of the year for my family and I. And so we'll celebrate that. We'll go to church, spend time with family, eat lots of good food, probably way too much food. I'm also looking forward to, like, I haven't had a candy cane, like a good candy cane in a while. And I don't often indulge, but I'll probably have a candy cane here or there. I like original flavors only, like the whole Jolly Rancher thing, or like all the different flavors. It turns your tongue different colors, and it's just not good. So
yeah, I can't do those green candy canes. I can't do the green ones. I need the red ones. That's all I can do.
Yep, exactly. So just a lot of quality time with family. I haven't seen my wife's family in over a year because of just traveling for basketball and training and all that goes in with that. So really excited about that.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I'm excited to have a happy holiday season.
Yes.
And I agree. Everybody's very happy around Christmas time. Then in New York, at least, they've started popping up all of the the pop-up shops and like the Christmas markets and things. And everybody just gets so excited, even though they're not going Christmas shopping. They just see it and it's like eyes glowing. Christmas is coming, and it's exciting.
See, I need to come to New York because New York does it right. They've got the biggest street. They've got Rockefeller Center. They've got Broadway, and I mean everything. It's just I grew up in Pennsylvania, so not too far, and we would do some day trips. But I need to come back during Christmas time. The only thing that's bad is it is cold. So make
Yes.
sure that you have lots of adventures with Aggie sweatshirts on, because you'll be very cold.
Yes, it snowed. Yesterday was the first snow of the season. Today it also snowed. I am from Alabama, so I'm not used to this. So we'll see what happens. It's my 5th year in the city and I still don't know how to handle snow, but it's happening.
Yes, I think that you never get used to snow. It's always a shock, but
Yeah.
a white Christmas is never a bad thing. So who knows? Maybe you'll have one.
That's true. I hope so. That would be super fun. The
Yeah.
icing on the cake there for Christmas in New York. But
Yes.
amazing. Well, happy holidays. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time to share your story and lots of really exciting words of wisdom.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is super fun. I love doing this stuff. So Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays. And until next time.
Ryan, thank you so very much for coming on the show and sharing your story with us. Join us next week for Adventures with Aggie featuring Dromos Agency, as we have our last episode with Dromos, where we speak with David Kiley, founder of the DK3 3-on-3 basketball tournament.